Hello, my name is Sydney Wright. I'm a civil engineering major at Jackson State University, and I will be presenting my paper, We've Arrived, which is an analysis based on J. Cole's 1985. 1985, I arrived. 33 years, damn, I'm grateful I survived. We wasn't supposed to get past 25. Joke's on you, motherfucker, we alive. J. Cole. One of the most influential stereotypes of African American communities is the expectation to fail. The American system is constantly working against them and has groomed them to work against one another. For example, of all men in America, 1 of 9 men are in jail, 1 of 17 are white, 1 of 6 men are Latino, and 1 of 3 men are black. This shows that the black population in America is a minority. But however, in prison, African Americans are a majority. African American men especially are targeted and racially profiled every day, and many are sent to jail simply by the color of their skin. Another way the system has worked against African Americans is the fact that cops are killing harmless and unarmed black youth in particular. For instance, in 2012, African Americans made up only 13% of the population, but yet 31% of African Americans were killed by police. In the song 1985, J. Cole highlights this major issue within African American communities and tries to uplift his peers to do the same and help break the cycle. J. Cole delivers a powerful message that is not accessible to many within the black community, which would be investing, impact, and maturity. Many African Americans can advance in the world more if they were aware of the blockade before them, causing many of these police killings, mass incarceration, and racial profiling of African Americans to cease if more people embrace J. Cole's message. J. Cole infers the idea of investing. Everybody is investing whether you know it or not. Time and money are major investments. Furthermore, time and money can reap negative or positive outcomes. J. Cole makes it known to his peers and listeners that real estate, rather than spending money on jewelry and clothes, is more positive investment. J. Cole quotes, "You should have bought a crib with all that bread that you done blew. I know you think that this type of revenue is never ending, but I want to take a minute just to tell you that ain't true." This statement paints a perfect image of a major issue within the black community. Many African Americans are not educated on money management, so therefore many African Americans existing in poverty even after they earn large sums of money. In many instances, when someone in the African American community starts earning money, an abundant amount of money that one is not used to having, the money is usually spent in a poor manner and not invested properly. Poor spending within the African American community would be things such as Jordan's expensive clothes, cars, depreciate. Many African Americans make these financial mistakes instead of investing. Thus, J. Cole advising African Americans to become more financially literate, which could help African Americans better integrate into society. If more African Americans were financially literate, there would be less crime in black communities. They'd become more financially independent. This could help build African American communities and help them strive as a people become people. Excuse me. J. Cole highlights the impact that music has on society and more so the image of the African American community. Quote, "But have you ever thought about your impact? These white kids love the fact that you don't give a fuck because that's especially what expected when your skin is black." J. Cole. The depiction of the African American community is that they are ignorant and uneducated. Thus, the impact that many artists have is essential to the community. Therefore, many younger individuals respect these artists and aspire to be like them. The message that they breed is crucial to African American communities based on what will these communities be like generations to come. For example, Run DMC had a tour back in 1987 as they performed My Adidas. They got the whole crowd to remove their shell-toed Adidas and pull them off and put them in the air. This song inspired sneaker culture, which is still relevant today. This is an example of how artists can have an impact on the African American community and the world as well. Another example is that there are so many of that inspired to be rappers. Many advertise their music on social media platforms, and this is a very saturated market. These are two crucial examples as to how artists can directly impact African American communities and youth. Many artists have a good or negative impact on African American communities based on the message that they are delivering. As such, more positive messages in the work may potentially lead to lower crime rates, more community involvement, more awareness in the African American community. Maturity is also an underlying message within the song. J. Cole states, "One day them kids that listening gonna grow up and get too old for this shit that made you blow up." The music that many artists are producing is hindering the growth of the African American community. I Think I Love Her by Gucci Mane is a song that references Gucci Mane's relationship to cocaine, personifying cocaine as a woman. This is one of many songs with a negative impact to which youth shouldn't be exposed to. Another example is Gucci Gang by Lil Pump, which also references use of cocaine and buying expensive cars and jewelry. He could contribute a better message to the community than drugs and possession. These types of destructive art are a result of American system that has hindered the African American community by stunting the people's development into full-grown adults. The system aids in this by imprisoning African Americans and minimizing education standards in many urban communities. These are a few ways that the system aids in stunting growth in African American communities. One way this lack of growth into adulthood is displayed within the lingo amongst the community, such as a quote from Baby Boy: "What does a man call his place of residence? The crib." Having more African Americans knowledgeable of the calculated demise would influence more to carry themselves in a more sophisticated manner and realize that they are internalizing an image of what the rest of the society expects them to be. Society will respect African Americans more if they carry themselves in a more respectable manner. As a result, racial issues that they have will diminish based on the respect for unity. Which much progress has occurred. African Americans still have somewhat a long way to go, and it can start with the basis, which is the music. J. Cole is a revolutionary voice that is seeking to help African American communities. 1985 sparks and educates artists and listeners not to embrace what society expects of the African American community, but to amplify their expectations of themselves. Accordingly, 1985 highlights many ideas for African Americans to enlighten themselves within investment choices, impact on others, and maturity. Many racial issues against African Americans, such as mass incarceration and police brutality, can be resolved by enhancing African Americans' investments, impact,